She thought she had it all: love, family, purpose. For 10 years, she raised a little girl she believed was her husband's child. She was a devoted mother until one DNA test turned her world upside down. What if everything you loved was built on a lie? What if the child you tucked in every night was never yours to begin with? This is the heartbreaking, jaw-dropping true story of a woman who fought to hold on to the only thing that mattered when the truth threatened to take it all away. Stay with us because nothing in this story is what it seems. It started on a rainy afternoon in October. The kind of rain that doesn't just fall, it clings like a warning whispered from the sky. Elaine stood by the window, arms wrapped around herself, watching the water trace shaky lines down the glass. The scent of cinnamon and baby powder lingered in the house, soft and comforting, so terribly deceiving. For 10 years, she had been a mother. A good one. A devoted one. She changed diapers at midnight, held tiny hands through first fevers, stitched torn teddy bears back to life with trembling fingers. She had whispered lullabies while hiding her own tears. Because motherhood wasn't just an act of love. For Elaine, it was an escape from something she dared not name. Her husband, Darren, had always said she was made for this life. "You've got a mother's soul," he used to tell her, brushing a stray hair from her face. He'd look at their daughter, Hannah, like she was a miracle they had both prayed for. And maybe they had, in their own way. Elaine met Darren 12 years ago. He was already broken when she found him. His first wife had left, no explanations, no goodbye, just vanished into the ether when their daughter was only a baby. Darren was shattered. But Elaine? She was the kind of woman who stitched other people back together even as she bled inside. They met at a support group. She spoke about losing her sister. He spoke about being abandoned. Two fractured people trying to build something whole. At first, it was just visits. Elaine would come by to help him cook, soothe the baby when she cried, bring little things, a rattle, a warm meal, a smile. Darren said she brought light back into that house. Within months, light turned into love. And love turned into marriage. But here's the thing about love: it can grow in poisoned soil. It can bloom where lies have been buried. Elaine never questioned why the baby's mother left. Darren said she had mental health issues, a history of vanishing. She wasn't fit to be a mom, he said. "You saved us." Those words stuck to Elaine like glue. Saved? She had saved them. Or so she believed. Hannah grew, and so did Elaine's devotion. She poured her soul into that child. First steps, first words, scraped knees, birthday candles, each moment stitched into her heart with invisible thread. But the older Hannah got, the more people started to comment. "She doesn't look like you," they'd say with innocent curiosity. Or worse, "She's got such striking features. Almost exotic." Elaine laughed it off, always. But deep down, a knot had started to tighten. One she refused to untangle. Then a school form came. A routine health update requiring a family medical history. Elaine froze. She realized she knew nothing, absolutely nothing, about Hannah's biological mother. What if there was a genetic condition? What if She brought it up to Darren gently that night, expecting understanding. But his reaction chilled her. "Why does it matter?" he snapped. "She's healthy. She's our daughter. Leave it alone." But Elaine couldn't. Because mothers worry. That's what they do. She told herself it was for Hannah's safety, nothing more. She ordered a DNA test, not to challenge anything, but just clarity. Peace of mind. She waited 2 weeks for the results. 2 weeks of pretending everything was normal, of kissing Hannah's forehead and smiling through the ache. 2 weeks of silence from Darren, who now avoided her eyes. Then the email came. She opened it in the kitchen, heart pounding, hands trembling. The words were clear. Undeniable. Probability of maternity, 0%. Elaine couldn't breathe. She reread it again. And again. It didn't make sense. Of course she wasn't Hannah's biological mother, but she had never claimed to be. That wasn't the test. She scrolled down. Probability of paternity, 0%. Her scream cracked the air like thunder. Elaine collapsed to the floor, knees striking the tiles like a prayer denied. The screen stared back at her, blinking, cold, mechanical. 0%. Not just once. Twice. She wasn't Hannah's mother. Darren wasn't Hannah's father. That meant Hannah wasn't theirs at all. She couldn't move. Couldn't think. Only one thought repeated like a siren in her skull: who is this child? Hannah, the little girl who slept clinging to her like a lifeline, who called her mommy with the softest voice, who wrote, "I love you" in crayon hearts on birthday cards. For 10 years, Elaine had built her world around this child. And now everything was a lie? No, not everything. The love was real. Elaine knew that with a fury that flared in her chest. Whatever the truth was, she was that little girl's mother. In every way that mattered. But still, she needed answers. She waited until Darren came home from work, standing stiffly in the hallway with the DNA report clutched in her hand like a weapon. When he saw it, his face turned gray. "You lied to me," she whispered. He didn't speak. "You told me she was yours. That her mother left her with you. That I was saving you both." His eyes filled with something she hadn't seen before, not guilt, not sorrow, terror. "I need you to tell me the truth, Darren. Now." And finally he did. It wasn't his child. It never had been. After his first wife left, Darren went into a spiral: alcohol, anger, despair. One night, while driving through a quiet neighborhood, he saw something that didn't make sense: a baby stroller abandoned on a porch outside a house that had clearly been left in a rush. He swore it wasn't kidnapping. The door was open, Elaine. The house was wrecked. "I thought something had happened. I looked for someone. No one came. The baby was crying. I took her because I thought she'd die otherwise." He never called the police. He never told anyone. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. And when he met Elaine, he wove a story. One that made him a victim. One that turned her into a savior. Elaine listened, her hands shaking. "You took someone's child. And just pretended she was yours." "I loved her," he said. "We both did. She had no one, and you gave her everything. But what if she had someone? What if someone spent the last 10 years looking for her? Praying for her?" Darren didn't answer. Elaine didn't sleep that night. Every creak of the house sounded like the floorboards collapsing beneath a life built on lies. She sat by Hannah's bed, watching her daughter breathe, wondering who she really was. She knew what she had to do. The next morning, she contacted a private investigator. Not the police, she wasn't ready for that. She still didn't know what the truth would mean. Would they take Hannah away? Could they? She gave the investigator the DNA report, Hannah's birthmarks, photos from her earliest days. And then she waited. Days passed. Each one felt like a thread unraveling from a sweater she had spent a decade knitting. She still smiled for Hannah, still packed her lunches, still read her bedtime stories. But her heart ached every time the girl said, "Good night, Mommy." Because what if one night it would be the last time? A week later, the investigator called. "I think we found something," he said. "But you need to prepare yourself." Elaine's breath caught. There was a missing child case. Filed 11 years ago. Baby girl. Name, Ava Reynolds. Disappeared from a neighborhood in East Providence. Her mother was later found, murdered. No suspects. The baby was never located. Elaine gripped the edge of the table. "The photo we compared? It's a match, Elaine. I'm sorry, but Hannah, her name isn't Hannah. It's Ava. And she's not just missing, she's the center of an unsolved homicide." The world stopped. Elaine sat in the dark. The phone still pressed to her ear long after the investigator had hung up. Her heart pounded like a war drum inside her chest, each beat echoing the same question. What now? Ava. She couldn't even say the name aloud. It didn't belong to her. Not yet. Maybe never. Because Ava belonged to another woman. A woman whose body had been found in a ditch, nameless for years. Her blood soaked into the dirt while her baby vanished into silence. Elaine looked at the hallway where Ava's backpack still hung. Pink, worn, with a unicorn keychain dangling at the zipper. How could something so innocent, so childlike, be wrapped in a secret so monstrous? She wanted to scream. She wanted to run. But more than anything, she wanted to protect the girl sleeping upstairs. Even if she wasn't hers. Even if she had no legal right. Her love didn't change with DNA. It had been written into every scraped knee kissed. Every bedtime story whispered. But love alone couldn't fix this. Not when murder was involved. She didn't tell Darren. Not yet. She couldn't look at him. He had stolen a child, fed her lies for a decade, built a life on bones. Elaine made a decision that night. Quiet, resolute. She found the number for the East Providence Police Department and left a message. The next morning, 2 detectives arrived. Plain clothes, polite voices, clipped questions. She told them everything, from the DNA test to Darren's confession. One of them, a younger man with sharp eyes, kept his expression neutral. The other, an older woman, let her sorrow show. "We've been searching for this girl for a long time," she said. "You may have just solved a 10-year mystery." Elaine's hands trembled as she signed the statement. "What's going to happen to her?" she whispered. "We'll have to notify Child Services. And her biological family, if any remain. Will you take her away?" The detective paused. "That's not our call. But Elaine, you may need a lawyer." That night she didn't sleep. Again. She sat on the floor of Hannah's room. No, Ava's room, and watched her daughter sleep. Her chest rose and fell with the same rhythm it always had. Peaceful, unaware. Elaine's world might be in ruins, but this child still dreamed in color. The next day, Child Protective Services came. A woman in a navy suit introduced herself gently, sat on the couch and asked questions. Dozens of them. Elaine answered them all. She didn't flinch when they asked about Darren. She didn't cry when they said they would need to speak to Ava. Soon. "You've been raising her as your daughter," the woman said gently. "You love her. That matters. But we have to consider everything." "I understand," Elaine whispered. That afternoon, she sat with Ava on the porch, braiding the girl's hair as she always did. The sun was warm, mocking in its simplicity. "Mommy," Ava said softly, "why are your eyes red?" Elaine swallowed the lump in her throat. "Just tired, sweetheart." The moment stretched too long. Ava looked down at her shoes. "Did I do something wrong?" Elaine pulled her close, kissed the top of her head. "No, never. You are perfect." The social worker called later that week. "We've contacted the extended family," she said. "Aunt, on the mother's side, lives in Maine. She's been listed as next of kin in the case for years." Elaine's hand gripped the phone tighter. "She wants her. She's flying in next week. She's always hoped Ava was still alive." Those words stabbed deeper than any blade. Elaine said nothing to Darren. He hadn't asked. He spent most nights out drinking again. His guilt curdled into silence. She no longer cared. She was too busy watching the clock. Every hour felt like a countdown to loss. When the day came, Elaine dressed Ava in her favorite yellow dress. They sat together, not speaking, as a car pulled into the driveway. A woman stepped out, early 40s, tired eyes but familiar bone structure. She looked at Ava with such ache that Elaine had to look away. The introduction was quiet, careful. Ava didn't understand. How could she? She was told this was a visitor. They played for an hour. Ava, the woman, and Elaine sitting on the rug, coloring. Then Ava excused herself to get juice. The woman turned to Elaine, eyes glistening. "You raised her well." Elaine nodded. "I love her. I can tell." Then came the words Elaine dreaded most. "I want to take her home." Elaine didn't respond immediately. The words echoed like a bell toll in a cathedral, final, resonant, inescapable. "I want to take her home." Home. That word twisted in her chest like a knife. Because this, the creaky house with its scratched floors and sun-faded curtains, this had been Ava's home for 10 years. The place where she'd said her first word. Where she lost her first tooth. Where she danced in socks on rainy days and cried when the power went out. And now a woman who had only watched from afar wanted to take her away because of blood. Elaine forced herself to speak. "You just met her." I know, the woman said softly. But I've loved her every day since she disappeared. I've prayed for her. I've never stopped looking. I was her mother's sister. I have her mother's smile. Don't I deserve a chance? Elaine looked away. Because yes, she did deserve a chance. But so did she. She doesn't know you, Elaine said quietly. You're a stranger to her. Then let me become more than that. They sat in silence as Ava returned, juice in hand, beaming as if nothing in the world had changed. But everything had. The ground had already begun to shift beneath them all. In the following days, the custody hearing was scheduled. Elaine hired a lawyer not because she wanted to win, but because she couldn't lose without fighting. She submitted records, school awards, doctor's visits, photos from every year of Ava's life. She wrote a letter to the judge that bled ink from her soul. I may not have given birth to her, she wrote, but I raised her heartbeat with mine. I didn't carry her in my womb, but I carried her through every storm. In court, Ava's aunt looked smaller than she had at the house. Her grief clung to her like fog. She is the last piece of my sister I have left, she said through tears. I want to know her. I want to give her back the family she lost. Elaine said nothing at first. Just sat, stiff, hands clenched in her lap. Then she stood. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. I know I'm not her blood. But love is not genetic. Love is the night you don't sleep because she has a fever. Love is remembering her favorite stuffed animal when she's scared. Love is knowing she will hate you when you tell her the truth, but telling her anyway. Because she deserves it. She paused. And if I lose her, I lose more than a child. I lose a part of my soul. The judge asked Ava if she wanted to speak. No one expected her to say yes. But she did. The room froze as she stepped forward, tiny hands gripping the edges of the stand. I don't really understand everything, she began, voice shaky. But I know this. Mommy, she looked at Elaine. Mommy takes care of me. She sings to me when I'm sad. She never lets me feel alone. She turned toward the other woman. But you look like my pictures. And I dreamed about you. I think I love you too. But I'm scared. Silence. The judge recessed for deliberation. Elaine waited outside the courtroom, knees weak, breath shallow. She held Ava's hand. And in that moment, nothing else mattered. Then the bailiff called her name. Back inside, the judge's voice was clear, unwavering. In light of all presented evidence and the child's expressed bond with her current guardian, temporary custody shall remain with Ms. Elaine Harrison. Further evaluations will be conducted, including supervised visitations with the biological aunt, leading to a final review in 6 months. Elaine's heart nearly gave out. She wanted to sob, to collapse. But she couldn't because Ava was watching and strength was her only armor. Ava's aunt approached her afterward, eyes red but soft. Thank you for loving her. Elaine nodded. You have a right to know her. I won't keep her from you. They hugged, two women bound not by rivalry but by the same lost girl. But as they parted, Ava tugged Elaine's sleeve. Mommy, what happens now? And Elaine knelt down, holding her daughter close. Now, she whispered. Now we heal? But even as she said it, she knew the storm hadn't passed. Because Darren had not yet been held accountable. And Ava still didn't know the truth of how she ended up in their lives. And some truths are too heavy for children to carry. It was supposed to be over. Elaine had won, at least temporarily. Ava was still with her. The aunt, though grief-stricken, agreed to visit weekly. Child services seemed satisfied. On paper, things had stabilized. But reality doesn't follow paperwork. The night after the hearing, Elaine heard Darren's voice downstairs. Loud, slurred, angry. She rushed down, heart in her throat. He was in the kitchen, bottle in hand, swaying. You think you won, he spat. But you ruined everything. Elaine stood frozen. He looked like a stranger now, bloodshot eyes, unshaven, spiraling. You should have kept your mouth shut. We had a life. We had her. And now? Now the cops are asking questions. I might go to prison. You should go to prison, she said, trembling. You kidnapped a child. She was abandoned. You didn't know that, she screamed. Ava stood at the top of the stairs, clutching her stuffed bunny. Mommy? Elaine turned. Go back to your room, baby. But Darren's eyes snapped upward. You told her. His voice cracked. Elaine stood firm. No. But I will. She deserves the truth. He stepped forward. Too fast. Too sudden. Elaine's hand reached for the counter, but she wasn't fast enough. Suddenly, a loud bang. A crash. Darren slipped, bottle shattering, and hit the floor hard. He didn't move. For a second, the world stopped. Elaine called 911. The paramedics came. They said he had a concussion. He'd live. But he was done. Police were already on their way, statements ready to be filed. She didn't feel relief. Just cold. That night, she crawled into bed beside Ava, holding her close, wondering how much of this her daughter, truly understood. "Mommy," Ava whispered, "did Daddy hurt you?" "No, sweetheart," Elaine said softly. "He's just sick. And sometimes sick people make very bad choices." Ava didn't ask more. She just pressed her face against Elaine's chest and whispered, "I don't want to go away." "You're not," Elaine whispered back. "Not tonight. Not tomorrow. I promise." Weeks passed. Darren was arrested, charged with obstruction, kidnapping, falsifying records. The story hit the news. Reporters called. Elaine refused interviews. She wasn't a hero. She was a mother who almost lost everything. Ava started therapy. The nightmares came, of shadows, of screaming, of being taken. But they lessened. Bit by bit. Elaine painted her room yellow. She planted flowers outside. She started baking again. The aunt visited every week. Slowly, Ava opened up to her. She started calling her Auntie Lisa. They baked cookies together, looked through old photos. Ava asked questions. Lisa answered gently. And one day, Ava turned to Elaine with her soft, steady voice and asked, "Mommy, was my first mommy like you?" Elaine swallowed her tears. "She was brave. And kind. And she loved you very much. Do you think she'd like you?" "I think she'd be grateful." Ava nodded. And that was enough. 6 months later, the court reconvened. Final decision. Elaine sat with Ava on one side, Lisa on the other. The judge spoke of love, of trauma, of stability. And then she ruled Elaine would remain Ava's legal guardian. Full custody. Lisa wept. Elaine wept. And Ava smiled. But that night, Elaine went to her daughter's room, sat at the edge of her bed, and finally told her everything. Not all the details, but the truth. "You were taken from your real family," she said gently. "Your first mommy was very sick and very strong. She tried to protect you. Something terrible happened. You ended up with someone who wasn't supposed to have you. But then, I found you." Ava didn't speak for a while. Then she said, "So, you're not my real mommy?" Elaine's heart cracked, but she didn't flinch. "I may not be the mommy who gave birth to you, but I'm the mommy who stayed. And I always will." Ava reached out, hugged her tight. "Then you're real enough." And with that, the storm finally passed. In the end, love is not measured in DNA, but in the sleepless nights, the silent sacrifices, and the quiet strength of never giving up. Elaine didn't just raise a child. She raised a soul with courage, devotion, and the kind of love that defies biology. And though scars remain, healing begins with truth. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Because somewhere, someone is fighting to hold on, to love, to family, to hope.